Okay, so now it's going live. It started. As soon as I turn this off, it's gonna start broadcasting whatever's on my camera. I want it to broadcast my desktop, but right now the camera's on my face. So as soon as I do this, it's gonna do this weird what's called recursion. So then I just minimize that, and now I should be just broadcasting my screen. Down here is where it says, tells me that it's online, it's working, it's broadcasting. If I want to stop sharing, I click on this button. You guys okay down there? You got caught up there? Anyway, so that's where we're at. I wanted to go back and, as I was saying, going through the lesson plans again here and just the expectations for when you're planning lessons. Getting down to that evaluation point. How do you evaluate things? And this is why I was encouraging everybody to look into this Kathy Schrock. I'm just going to take a minute to go through that too and point out a couple of things that she does, resources that she has available on this website that makes it so powerful. So here is the sort of different pages or resources that she has available here. So assessment and rubrics is the one that I'm thinking of right now. So as you're planning things, and this mostly that what she's dealing with is web-based, online ICT, just what we're doing in this class. So the assessment and rubrics she's talking about are for ICT related tasks, not so much regular classroom teaching, but teaching using ICT. Again, our business here. So what's a rubric? What is a rubric?
A rubric is where you assist, know where the students are at with their assignment.
Yeah, it's a couple of things, right? It's a way of telling if the students have done what they needed to do and to what level, but also gives your students direction, right? What's expected of them.
What's expected.
Yeah. And what's expected of a different level of quality. So for me, when I'm testing, for example, your blog post, I'm looking for three things, right? Is it there? Is level one. Level two, is there some notes there? Did somebody go back to this one time and put something on there? Notes, whatever. If it's just point form, okay, that's the next level. But the three level, the highest level, the one that I'm expecting, the most competence, is there something there? Is there notes there? And is there reflection there? Is this somebody who's gone back to this, looked over the notes and thought about this? How would I use this as a professional teacher? So that's the 1, 2, 3 method I'm using for assessing most of the things that I'm doing in this class. And I think I've said that a few times already before, right? So, but if you look through Kathy Schrock's list here, and she's been collecting these for a long time, you can see some of them are related to school systems. Some of them are related to multimedia, which is what we're going to do here after a while too. How do you evaluate multimedia? If you've asked your students to create a podcast, what assessment rubric will you use to assess a podcast? And you can make your own simple one, or you can use some of these like this. So for example, here's one by, I don't know, let's go look at it. So here's a rubric, a rubric for assessing a podcast lesson. It asks these questions. And these, of course, are questions for you as you're evaluating this thing. But these are all also questions that you make available to your students so they know what's expected too. So did the podcast include content that was useful or relevant for your purpose? What were the technical qualities of the podcast? Was there a transcript, a written transcript? Was it expected? So this is, one rubric that somebody's worked out that, usually the rubrics touch all the bases of what people are interested in doing, right? So that's one for podcasting. Let's look at another one for number 2 for podcasting. Here's a little bit of a different podcast rubric. So if you're assessing a rubric, a podcast, you're asking yourself these things on the left-hand side. Is there an introduction? When you start evaluating the content, what's there? Delivery, interview, graphic, musical enhancements, technical production, group or partner work. So those are also the elements of it that you're interested in the case of this particular rubric. And then you're trying to assess the quality of it. So if it's exemplary, what does that mean, exemplary? It's the best example, right? It's a really good example of something. So if it's exemplary, if you'd use it to brag to everybody else, they get 9 points for it. If it's proficient, means yeah, they did a good job. It's good. Partially proficient, yeah, okay, so they did something there, but they need to work at things. And then unsatisfactory, well, this doesn't cut it, basically. So for each one of these tasks, you're asking these questions and assessing points. So in this case, there's 9 points available overall for introduction. Based on these system here, how many points do they get for that? Same thing then when you go to content, 9 points available for content. Down 3 points available for delivery, 6 points available for interview, 6 points for graphic and musical enhancements, so on and so forth to get down to the bottom. So the total points that this is worth is 45. How many did they get out of 45? And then you can translate that into a number grade or a letter grade, however you want to do it. So that's another one. Let's go look at one more just for fun, just to give you an idea of what she's posted on here, the value of it. Here's another one that's a podcast presentation rubric. So if you asked your students to create a podcast, you've said these are the elements that you're looking for. So the research that they've done, the actual podcast itself, the written portion, the mechanics of the written portion, citations that they used if you expected them to do some research, and then sound effects or whatever they want to talk about. And here's what they've, instead of giving them points necessarily, they just called it platinum, gold, silver, and bronze, although those are related to also to points. So the highest exemplary level is 4 points for each task. And then out of the overall, you can get whatever points you decide to. So that's a podcast rubric, and we're going to be working on a podcast lesson today a little bit. Let's see what else we've got in here. Web 2.0 rubrics, Skype rubric, ThingLink. I'm going to show you ThingLink. That's kind of a fun thing. And then if you want to build your own rubrics, they actually have tools for building rubrics, creating rubrics. So, and you can see she's got quite a few of them listed here. One that works with iPad, and that's what she's tried to do, is separate out so that if you're, depending what you're doing, what technology you're using. Rubric generators. So, what else? Self-assessment, subject-specific and general rubrics. So let's see what they got here. Creative dance rubric. Anybody teaching creative dance? Diorama rubric. Well, I just poke through it and see what you can find. And if you're looking for something, just about anything that we're doing in this class, there's going to be a rubric available for that that you could choose for assessment. Just this question of using the right and appropriate rubric. So, electronic portfolios. So basically, that's what your blog is, right? That's an electronic portfolio. It's where your work is being stored. Graphic organizer. What's a graphic organizer? Yeah, are you using one? What's the graphic organizer we're using in this class? MindMeister. That's a tool. It's a graphic organizer is the sort of the general term for it. MindMeister is the company. It's like Kleenex's tissue paper. So. What else have we got? Anyway, so poke through those and you'll see she's got pages and pages and pages of this stuff too. So how to use them, how to create them, how to apply them, how to assess them, how to modify them, just about anything that you want to do. So yeah, again, I would encourage you to look through her site here too, because if you're looking for ideas about different lessons as well, let's see what we've got here. Well, here's a whole section on iPads for teaching. And I guess iPads are, in some situations, they're sort of catching on. Most of the time, the students all have iPads. I've told you I've expressed my reservations about iPads as far as being professional teaching tools. I don't know, but we're going to start coming up against some of the limitations of the iPads right now. So anyway, different types of things that you could do using iPads, and she's got it kind of listed out too. What else have she got? Guide to everything. I was looking for lessons, offerings. Oh, I think she does presentations too on all these different things. So this is her professional website. Anyway, well worth looking at, even if just for the assessment tools, the rubrics. Similarly, Richard Byrne is probably more focused directly on the actual technology, not so much specifically on the assessment or any particular part of that, although he does deal with it as well too. But what kind of devices can you use? And he's got a same thing, iPad apps for school, how to use the technology basically, and then how to build it into lessons that you plan. If you're using an iPad approach, how can you build that into this? So I've kind of been consulting this a little bit too. As I said, I usually deliver this class where people have, Windows or Macintosh actual computers or laptops. Using the iPad it's a kind of an underpowered thing for doing the things that we need to be able to do. So we'll do our bets. All right, so that's a little bit of a review of some of the issues with in relation to lesson planning. Again, you're thinking about, well, what lesson would I want to teach with a collaborative document, like a Google document? What lesson would I want to teach with a map? And we're going to move on now into what lesson would I teach with a podcast? And what's a podcast again? Anybody listen to them? Yeah, they're like a radio show that you control. You can pause them, stop them, rewind them, come back to them 2 hours later or 2 weeks later. So it's like a radio program that's recorded where you have access to the control to it. So you can, again, as I said, rewind it, pause it, go back to it, listen to it as many times as you want. And it's usually audio, strictly audio. When we talk about vlogs or a video podcast, that's a thing too, usually YouTube sort of thing. But for the most part, the pure podcast is related to audio. So we're going to branch into that today when we get through it. I want to just go back through the maps a little bit though and review what we did there yesterday and get everybody a chance to click through them again and look at them again. Even before we do that, I want to look at this thing called GeoGuessr. Anybody come across GeoGuessr? Ever seen this? Fun, single player. Where is this? If you had to put the pin on the map where this is, where would you say this was? Looks like, can you see that all right? Let's zoom along here, see if we can get a little clues here. I thought I saw a sign here.
Is that outskirts of Brandon?
Is it the outskirts of Brandon? I don't know. I don't know. There's these kind of signs. It's obviously someplace that has, well, that's 4-lane highway, so the ground looks familiar. The dirt looks familiar. Let's go see if I can find a sign again too. The actual streets. Oh, I see a street sign coming out. Oh no, there's just lane signs. Of course, this is all time too. This is a contest. How fast can you figure this out? I don't know. No, it could be anywhere. This is the world. Right here. So here's our map. Where should we put our pin?
Anywhere.
So let's see if it's maybe in Manitoba, because it's, it's probably not Africa. It's probably not Antarctic. It's probably, looks like they're driving on the right-hand side of the road, right? So that's a clue. Well, Australia drives on the other side of the road, right? So let's go. Let's see if it's in Manitoba. So we'll zoom into someplace in Manitoba where. Say, does that look like where we've got 4-lane highways in Manitoba? It kind of looks like that between here and Winnipeg, yeah, basically. Okay, let's say it's somewhere right there. Make a guess. They're always trying to sell you something, of course. Yeah. Okay, so here, actually, where it is, in Russia. We're a little bit off, right? So we were actually 8,037 kilometers off. So, and you didn't earn very many points for doing that. So this is called GeoGuessr, and I put a link on my blog today there too. So GeoGuessr. Let's try one more. Tell me. Help me now. I've got to make some points. You guys lost me a whole bunch of points that time. 8,000 kilometers off. Wait a minute. Where are we? A little 2-lane road. Not so much the desert, but we got some solar panels here. Trees, so it's in the fall. It's some kind of a temperate climate of some sort. Looks like they got trees that change temperature, so it's probably somewhere north or south. Can we go see if we can find something? See if we can find a sign or something, anything to give us a clue. They got power, so it's probably not the deepest, darkest heart of Africa. Let's go see this house. Maybe there's a sign. If we can see anything written, sometimes you can tell just what language it is, for one thing. Of course, this is all time too, so the faster you can guess, the better. What do we got? Look in somebody's front window. House, car. Can't see the license plate, but mailbox. Can we see their address? No, no help. Okay, let's go over to this next one too. Maybe there's a commercial sign on this or something. No, just the barn. They make round bales. Is that any help? Where do you think? You think this is North America? Whoa, an address. McLaughlin. Sounds like a Scotch person. Think it's Scotland? No. I don't know. We're gonna have to guess. Oh, here's a street sign. Let's say Creekside Road. It's in English, so it's an English-speaking country. Looks like their right-hand side drive too, because the signs are on the right-hand side of the road that we've seen so far. Any other clues that we tell? It's obviously in a climate that has fall, so not the tropics. There's a graveyard there. Any guesses? I think it's Saskatchewan. Let's try it. Let's go take a look and see. Although you guys, is it too many trees? Well, depends where you go in Saskatchewan. They get lots of trees too. Let's say where in Saskatchewan do you think? Maybe northern. Should we go by Priestville? Why not? Let's say. Make a guess. Oh well, by Montreal, by Ottawa. So we're in the right country. We're only 2,041 kilometers off. So anyway, so you can do this, and you know, it's kind of fun. Of course, everybody likes doing it. Kids like doing it too. You can actually do all sorts of customized GeoGuessrs too, so that you can do it by I'm going to get out of this and close this. It's kind of got it all larded up with ads now, so unless you subscribe and buy into it. So did I enjoy this location? Yeah, that was wonderful. Lovely. Play next round? No, I want to go back to the main thing. Although there was a big sign there, it probably would have been easier. So these are the different things that you can do. You can have challenge mode. You can find popular maps, official maps, world maps around the world. You can have just in the United States, U.S. cities or European stadiums, or people are, same with a lot of these things, people are making these maps and making these contests and challenging other people and putting up on this GeoGuessr. And they're using that Google Maps Street View, right? And Google Maps. So it's kind of fun. New maps. Let's see. Let's go look at some new maps that we could see. So Commonwealth conundrums. I don't know. Train stations of Europe. Siberian outback. Latitude adjustment. Lake Ontario challenge. Anyway, you can see the idea is that you can use these maps, but you can also create them and make challenges for other people and make challenges for your own students, but also get your students to make map challenges for other students. So it's fun. Again, based on the Google Maps, Google Street View version of Maps. We actually might have been able to get this one. Cautionary Bussigny. What is that? Still right-hand drive. Different kind of signs, probably not North American style signs. That looks like a Eastern European kind of arrangement. Although it doesn't have the Cyrillic signs, the Cyrillic alphabet on the signs, so I don't know. Those CBC cars. Nexa, autocolor. Guesses? A little greener, although it could be the time of year too. Yeah, but except Google now, they blur them out.
Is it like current time too? Like it's like right now?
No. It's Google Street View, right? So it depends how frequently the Google Street View goes over. Sometimes it's really current, but sometimes it's out of date. But for this though, I don't know. Let's bet you this is Europe somewhere. I think, and maybe Eastern Europe. Well, it's not Eastern Europe because it doesn't have the funny Cyrillic characters, but let's say, and it's not German language, I don't think, but let's say Austria. And of course, the free version, they're always trying to sell you something. Oh, well, look at that, Switzerland. So I was only off by 643 kilometers. That's better. Anyway, it gives you an idea. You're gonna have fun with that, play with that. Yeah. The other thing I want to start talking a little bit more about, and we'll keep drilling down into Google Maps as we go along, and when you're planning lessons, it helps to know what possibilities there are too within maps. So I wanted to talk a little bit more, like today, about layers, other things about layers. So go find your Google Map. Can you get into your Google Map and add another layer? So remember where we found it? In your Google, when you're logged into your Google account, it should be in one of your overflow icons for your Google things. Maps is here. Once you're logged into your maps, you go over here and you go down to your places. So this is where you can create your own maps. And then in this case, you should your maps that you're creating should be under maps. And you can enter into the edit version, create a new map, or if you click on this, and for example, here's my map that I created yesterday. I've added value. I actually added something to this today. Just let me exit out for the time being. But so I want to open in my maps. So if I want to edit this thing, I have to go open in maps. And then, yeah, here's the map that I created yesterday with 2 layers. One layer that had a few points on it, and one layer that had some shapes on it. So I got to zoom in a little bit because I'm zoomed out too far to see my shapes. So there's my points layer and my shapes layer. If I turn off the shapes layer or lines layer, those disappear. If I turn off my points layer, then all of my points disappear. So each layer that we create in this map has value that we can add to it. And so if we show a whole map, of course, we've got lots of different things. I downloaded a thing today called a KML file. KML means Keyhole Markup Language. So this is the language that mapping applications understand. It's like HTML for web pages, but this is the language that maps understand, particularly Google Maps and Google Earth. And it's been around for a while. So lots of people who are using maps and map coordinates, that's how they communicate things with these KML files. So what I did was I went on the Government of Manitoba website and I looked for files for fires, Manitoba forest fires, KML. So I just searched because I want the KML file, and I just searched for that. Well, here's what it came up with. So Manitoba, Government of Manitoba publishes every year a fire watch, a map of all the fires that are burning, and it gives you status, what those fires are. So if I click on this, and here's February 19th, of course, so there's shouldn't be too many fires burning here, but I'll say 2019 and save it here. And what I've done is now saved this. I downloaded this KML file. It shows up in a couple of different places, but here, when you're using Google Chrome, when you immediately download it, it shows up in the corner down here. If you have to find it later, it should show up still in the downloads file. So here's Manitoba Forest Fires 2019 KMZ file. KMZ is a version of KML. It's has a little bit more information in it. Often it has multimedia information in it. So then I went into open my maps and I went into add a layer. And in this case, instead of making this layer, I imported this information that goes in this layer. So here's what you can actually load up into a map. So you can add CSV. What is CSV? Anybody come across that term? Comma separated values. If you're ever working with spreadsheets, there's a couple of different ways. There's colon or semicolon separated values, or period separated values, but comma separated values are the most common thing. So you got, Glenn, comma, Myrna, comma, Lorna, comma. Each one of those values is separated by a comma. So when we say we have a list of comma separated values, that's what they're talking about here. Or KML files or GPX files. These are all sort of different types of files that applications work with. So in this case, though, I've got a file of KML information. So I just dragged it into here and let it go. And what it did was express this. So here's all the fires that were burning in, the status of all these fires in Manitoba. And because it was specifically Manitoba, there's no place else. But I can zoom right into any one of these fires and figure out what status of the fire is. So let's go look at this one, for example. So here's a fire. What is it? So this fire is named M Northwest 011. This information was, well, that's from 2010, so it's ancient history. What size was the fire? It was 1 hectare. It was detected on May 22nd, 2010. I guess this is an old KML file. It's not the current one for this year. Tells you all the different fire status reports. So if you are monitoring, you live in a particularly in a northern community where there's, fires are a fairly constant concern. This is one way to sort of monitor things and keep tracks. If you're planning trips somewhere and you want to know what's going on with the fire situation, any particular place. So I just did a search on, in Google called, I just did Manitoba Fires KML, because I wanted that KML file. And this is what they came back with this Manitoba wildfires. And it didn't hit a website, but it actually gave me a file that I could download right away. And just download it onto my computer, whether that was in, you can save it wherever you want, but I just put it in my download so that I could find it quick enough. So and there's thousands and thousands and thousands of KML files that we can find and use. Used to be that they charged an arm and a leg for them, but now Government of Canada actually makes them too. And I think I linked a few sources on here. Canadian government has KML files that are available. So this under what they call Open Government Portal. What kind of things could you put on a map? Well, geographical names. You can download it in a few different formats, but KML is one of the formats that you can download it in. The National Railroad Network, National Hydro. What was I looking at? I was looking at Canadian land cover. So farmers are interested. What's the condition of my land in here? Aboriginal Lands of Canada legislative boundaries. So what do they consider the legislative boundaries for Aboriginal lands? Ortho images, Canadian digital elevation model. So what are the heights of land throughout? Canadian digital surface. So all sorts of different things that are available in these formats, which don't mean anything as a file until you put them into a map, and then they express themselves as a map. So that's KML files and not all of them work with Google Maps. Google Maps is a simplified version of things. It doesn't have capacity for a huge set of files. I think this KML file that I put of the Manitoba fire maps was about the maximum capacity that this Google Maps could stand. But if you're using Google Earth, it can take almost unlimited capacity of KML files. So when we look at, we'll look into Google Earth in a little bit more detail as we go along too. You'll see that it's got some pretty huge capacity. Again, the trouble with that is that you pretty much need a full-featured computer to use it with a sort of a full-featured computer operating system. Yeah, so now I turn that layer off, it's gone. Now I just have the other layers that I had. I pointed out yesterday that when you did your maps, what I wanted you to do is embed one of your maps, the map that you're going to use for your lesson plan, into a page. So we just put it into Well, I'll do it right now. So I want to put a page. In this case, I guess I did make a page with including my map. For you, when you're doing your lesson planning, this is where I'm going to get you to show the map that you've made sort of as an example for your lesson. So you're going to be planning a lesson, and you're going to be creating an example of each thing that you're making. So the document or the map or the podcast or the video, I want you to be posting an example of what you're talking about. And that could be directions that you're giving to your students, or it could be just an example of a map that you're going to use to deliver a lesson, or it could be a few different things. But mostly, I want you to see if you can do the technology basically. So now I've put this across the top here. If I click on this, I go to my map, and here's this map I created yesterday for myself. Yours will be, and I think most of you also put a page with a map on your blogs as you went along. Any changes that you make to the map in Google Maps will also show up on the map that you've got embedded on your blog. So that's what I was wanting you to do right off the bat is start a page and embed your map on it right off the bat, so that then when you go on and add value to it as you're planning your lesson, it's going to be on your blog already. So again, the same old story. I'm looking for three things when I look at this. Is it there? Somebody done some work on it? Does this look like a proficient person has done some work on it? So that's my sort of 3-element rubric that I'm looking at here. Okay, back to what we were talking about today. Oh, we've got things there's a thing called batch geo. If you actually want to make a KML file, create a KML file, you've got a bunch of data, whether that's, I fooled around with it, I made one out of postal codes. I just went and did a Google search for Brandon postal codes, and it gave me a whole file of postal codes, comma separated value postal codes, that I was able just to import into this field, and it generated a KML file that I could then drop into a map, and it posted all of those postal codes. Let me see if I can find a map that's similar like that. Is this one got one? Yeah, here's the Brandon postal codes map. So if I click that layer on, I didn't use all the Brandon postal codes, but I just used a few of them in one neighborhood, one area. So that was imported into a Google map as a KML file, and then the Google Maps took that KML information and put points on my map. So we'll keep drilling down at these and reviewing these a little bit. Oh, I see one map here. Somebody, just an example of how somebody else used this. Important places in Romeo and Juliet. So one of the students in my last classes, this was the lesson that they designed. They're teaching an English class, but they also wanted to, provide a reference point for different elements of Romeo and Juliet. So Juliet's house, Juliet's tomb, Romeo's house, and then a path between them. So if you're going to go on a tour of, where is that, Verona? In Italy, you could follow this path that goes from the tomb to the Juliet's house to Romeo's house. But, yeah, that was an effective little lesson that you could teach. Let people get an idea of some of the physical characteristics of a Shakespearean play. So. Yes, I didn't get to do this yesterday, but one of the maps that I liked looking at was one's called First Nation Seekers. Let me see if I can go find this map. And again, this is another customized map that somebody's made. Tribes in North America. Linguistic groups. They've got maps here now with 3 sort of different organizational schemes for this. So I'll look at level 2 central, which is our part of the world, basically. So this is what this map looks like. And we can position ourselves basically by recognizing Hudson's Bay, because none of the Canadian geopolitical borders are marked on this. This is all based on First Nations groupings. So there's no Manitoba border or Saskatchewan border or anything. These are all different borders. So for example, right where we are, can we find ourselves in relation to Lake Winnipeg? So these are the groups that are listed around here: North Mississippi Cree, Assiniboine, Mandan. This guy's done a lot of work on this stuff. Out to the West Coast, different West Coast groups. And then what he's done here is made a list of these and connected it to the current groups. Let me see if I can find this now. Where is it? Try OG create. Yeah, I'll have to go back and look at the main site. Algonquin, for example, from Manitoba, let's say Mississippi Cree that I was looking at for before. The different divisions. So Matthias Coulomb, Puckatawagan, Swampy Cree, the Paw, tribal members of these groups. So I'll go click on this one. So here's the website for the Swampy Cree. This is the actual First Nations, their own website. Usually they've been keeping them up pretty good. I think it's usually, they've got, Chief and Council of the Grand Council, for example, if you wanted to know who's Grand Council of Swampy Cree. Right now, there's Sapatoyak. Is that right?
Yeah.
Clarence Easter, Vice Chief, who's Grand Chief, Nelson Janai. So it's kind of got a lot of information packed into this map, but also another map that's not based on, the sort of the ordinarily political, geopolitical boundaries that you'd expect, and then linked to current groups and current administrations, I guess. And most of this seems to be connected to administrative groups. So it's kind of useful that way. What else have we got in maps? Well, of course, we'll look at a few different arrangements or customizations that you can do to maps that give you resources that you could use for lesson planning. So some ideas. And again, we'll look at some of the different things, but you need to pick a subject area and a grade level. And probably you could use it for almost any subject level, subject matter, and almost any grade level. You could figure out a rationale for using a map for it. So, as I said, even stuff like English literature, they used a map of Juliet, Romeo and Juliet sort of thing. So, anything to help enhance people's understanding of the subject matter at hand using ICT. And again, recognizing that that's what ICT does, is it's a force multiplier. Multiplies your force, multiplies your effort. So, yeah, so we're going to go on today and talk about podcasting. Then we'll take a little break and we'll come back and start digging into a little bit of some of the things, some of the technology related to podcasting. Everybody's got their iPad, something to record audio. Your phone will work. Fortunately, our desktop computers won't work because they don't have microphones in them.
Can I still use this for audio though? If
Yeah.
I don't have Skype, I didn't log in.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Okay.
But you should be able to get Skype going at some point, right?
Well, probably maybe tonight.
Anyway, yeah, no, I mean, there's no
I have
panic.
to create a new account.
Oh, is that right? Oh, they'd be
And then
miserable.
if I put in your phone number,
Yeah.
will you send me a message or?
Well, you have to send me, did you put it in already?
No, not
Because
really.
they'll send me a text and then I have to give you the code number. And everything.
Okay, where would I go for that audio? Do I just? go to
Okay,
Google
so
Chrome?
you just need an app of some kind to record. So have you got a recording app on there already?
I really don't know.
Just go through it and you see
Settings?
something.
Do I
No,
go
it won't be
no?
settings, but it'll be, there's one, right? A recorder.
Oh,
Wave
voice
recorder.
memos.
Yep, voice memos. The only thing with that one is that, we'll try it and we'll fool around with it. I think it only saves a certain kind of file, which is, I just tried it and it was a bit of a limitation, but go ahead, say it, start it,
Okay, continue.
and then just,
Oh,
yeah, okay, allow.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Enable?
Yeah,
Okay.
and now just click the red button. There you go, you're recording.
That's you.
That's you.
Okay, so in order to turn, okay, done?
Yeah.
And then how do I listen to it? Just
So, yeah, click it.
Oh, play. Oh, I would need ear.
Well, there should be a speaker in that. Just turn your speaker up on the side there. Yep, turn your volume, crank your volume up.
Just kidding me. Oh, okay.
And you might have to play it again there.
Hi, Ellie.
Oh, I got close.
You on break?
Oh.
Do you hear it? Yep,
Okay,
good,
so in order to
Yep.
turn, okay, done? Okay.
good.
The same thing happened to mine. And then it's-
On Skype, see, they're giving you grief,
yeah,
Uh, I can't access. So did you send the code to somebody?
no.
It said,
Well, you had the code when they phoned you, right?
well, they sent me a text, but did you do it again now?
No.
What, is there,
I just went on there and
did they send it? Oh, they sent it to your email. We'll check your email.
on here.
No, on your email.
Which one? Like,
Well, Gmail, that one that you sent, that Gmail,
oh, okay.
they sent you a code to that.
Oh, okay.
So go get that email and there, in that email, there'll be a code.
Maybe she need the password.
No, you should be logged into your Gmail, so. Really? Yeah,
For our lesson plans.
Yeah.
You know how you have those 4 different nodes?
yeah, in
Is
the,
that one
see.
lesson plan for each node?
yeah, so each one of these is gonna be a different lesson, right? So these are all of your 4 lesson plans for this class. But this would be one lesson. This would be another lesson using maps. This would be another lesson using podcasts. This would be another lesson using videocasts.
What's video cast?
We're coming to it, yeah. We're gonna just start the time, but using YouTube basically is what we're using.
So for maps, if I wanted to do a lesson plan on like active volcanoes.
Yeah.
That would be good.
Good, but then you'd have to find out where in the Manitoba curriculum it talks, says
Oh,
that's
so it has to be a
gotta be connected to the Manitoba curriculum.
Manitoba
So
curriculum.
you're gonna have to, I don't know, maybe that's in science or geography, or I don't know what subject area that would be. And what grade level do they teach about volcanoes?
Map,
I don't know.
probably. I'll find something.
Yeah,
else then.
find something. And then what you're gonna do is drill right down into, a 50-minute lesson, a specific learning objective in the
50 minutes?
50, one class basically.
Okay.
So, and I said 50 minutes. I don't know. Sometimes you have 30-minute classes or
I'm gonna do 30 minutes.
either or, but just sort of get it down to one day's worth of class, basically.
Okay.
What would you teach on one day? So,
Map. What was the other one?
well, did you make yourself a concept
I
map like
did,
this?
but it's kind of confusing to me because I didn't watch the videos
Okay,
yet.
okay.
I'm just gonna
Yeah,
do
so-
that this weekend.
Good. Well, then you can do that too. Do I have custom settings?
And then what else are we supposed to do?
What's that?
Just
For lessons?
Yeah, this is the 41?
Yeah, this is 40% of your mark. The other 40% is your blog, things that you're doing on the blog, and then the other. I know. I somebody just pointed that out. I just calculated 20% for the presentations, and we haven't really talked about the presentation yet at all either. So
Wondering about that.
we'll work our way into that.
No, my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why we're gonna be watching the Jets game. When did you say you again? 7:30? We watch the Jets game, guys. Start at 7, and we'll go shower, put my jersey.
We'll come back here.
Yeah, I'll come to you.
Okay.
That'll work, Bernadette?
No, it didn't, it says.
Didn't let you in?
Suspended. Yeah, can I put your phone number down here?
Yeah. See it there? Yeah, if they don't get verification or confirmation within a certain time frame, they think it's a spam account sort of thing, or somebody's setting up a scam account, and they get nervous. I think they get a little bit too nervous, but I don't know. You send it?
from home?
7566. Hi. Actually, you can go down the hall, or that other lab should have it too there. I think there's a printer. If not, you can come. Did you get it? 7566.
Is that it? Are we presenting that one as well?
Well, you're going to be making a presentation, but you're going to do it so that it's on your blog. So that when I go to look at your presentation, I click the link and I see it there. Now, I'll give you more directions about that as we go along too. It's fun. Are we ready?
I've used it for many times. You know, but what happened was I never turned my off,
Your which?
my Skype, every time
Oh.
I went down here, I just went home and like
So it stayed open? Usually that doesn't bother. Yeah, I leave my Skype on all the time actually at
So I
home.
don't know what, something went wrong with it.
Because I got my Skype open on my phone. I'm always logged in on my phone because I actually use it as a phone too, right? It's on my iPad.
So I don't know what.
Mid which? Limited?
Yeah. So
I don't know.
she tried helping me with it, and she
Yeah.
said to try again tomorrow.
Okay. Sometimes, like I said, when you're starting new accounts, and especially when they see a whole bunch of applications for new accounts coming from one IP address, they say, "Oh, what's going on here? There's somebody setting up a boiler room to use Skype to scam people."
Yeah.
So they get all fidgety about it, and it happens. That happens all the time, of course. So that's why they. Sorry, my apologies about the grading scheme there too. I think I fixed it now. I can't count, obviously. Bonus points, yes. It's all bonus points. Anyway, let's carry on with this and just look along the side now. I've been adding to our tasks here on the web page. So if you're looking as we're going along, keeping track of what we're doing in the class, the expectations for the class, now I put up on there the concept map, GIS and maps, what we covered yesterday and today. Now that's listed on there. There's a whole page about it. What's GIS again? Yeah, Global Information System. Yeah, global, it's all the satellite data that's being collected and managed in different types of computer-based programs. They call that whole system now the Global Information System. And then I added a little bit more value to that on there as well. Mentioned First Nations seekers. Actually, a whole bunch of people, since I started following that First Nations seeker, a whole bunch of people have been making those types of maps now with different territorial information based on it. And this is another one here. Anyway, I like to feel them up on that assignment page there too. So it's kind of lots of stuff going on there. What else did I put on there? Oh, podcast. So now I've got a little bit, I put a page here that's going to describe a little bit about podcasting, what we're doing here. So as I mentioned, podcasting is basically creating audio files that you can listen to on a web page. So there's a few things that are involved in, of course, technology related things involved in that. So first of all, creating an audio file. Then finding a place to store that audio file. Then finding a player that you can use to distribute that audio file. So what we'll do is we'll use our different applications. And I know if you look at your iPhone or iPad or whatever you're using, or even your Android phone, if you're depending on what device you're using, you should see on your homepage some kind of a voice recorder. And usually there's one installed. I forget which one was installed as the sort of the default one on mine. Might have been Voice Memo, I think was one of them. We can start with that. So just click on where it says Voice Memos. Everybody see that? And yeah, you'll have to use these because these are company computers have no multimedia, right? They have no mics, they have no speakers, they have no cameras. So we're kind of SOL if we're going to try and do things on that. But we'll see if we can work with these things. So Voice Memos should open up an application like this. And I'm kind of nervous about switching the camera here. I'm hoping you can sort of follow along with my verbal description as we go along. But I'm looking for, when you go on your iPad on the main homepage, an application called Voice Memos. And it should open up something that looks kind of like this. Everybody see that? Yeah. And then what do you do with the little red button? Click on the little red button. And what does it do? Yeah. Sure. Yeah, that's perfect. Any of these they kind of all work the same, so whichever, and we'll try a few different ones, and you might find one that works better than another one, or one that you prefer over another one. So, but keep going. On your phone? Voice recorder? Yeah, so then just click the button and record something. And it can be anything because we're just fooling around here, basically.
Mine is not working.
What's wrong with it? My voice recorder. If it's not on, you might have to download it.
Yeah.
No. Just scroll by a little bit again. There might be a different one on there. Oh, there it is. Voice Memos. That's the one we're looking at here. And I think it's kind of the basic one that's installed on all of these iPads is the basic one. So just fool around with it a little bit, record something, pause it, replay it. When you're done, you're done. Click on done. It shows up on your side. It should show you up when you press done, it should show you this little thing that now lets you edit it or garbage it. You can see, you recognize the little garbage can on it.
Just like a Christmas.
And then the other thing that you can see on there is an upload function. And you might have to tell it where you want to, I'm going to get you all to upload things to your Google Drive. And that'll be one of the options when you select the upload, the little square page with an arrow up, right, which means upload for everything. And then it says, where do you want to upload it? And we'll say Drive. And you guys probably won't have too much in your Google Drive at this point, so it's not so critical to name your files and sort them, but you probably want to get in the habit of naming every file, giving it a name, and then you might even want to, as we go along, we'll try and put them in folders on your Google Drive. So right now, you've probably got a document, you got a drawing, you got a few different things like that. You probably want to get a file going for audio clips or whatever. But for the time being, just upload some audio into your Google Drive. So something that you recorded with this voice memo. It doesn't matter what it is, just get something on there, some audio file. And then once you've said done, it should show you. So those are the different things that you can do with it, right?
Do I have to download Google Drive?
No, you should be logged into your Google account.
I'm just wondering why these things.
Oh, that's other people around here.
Oh, okay.
So this is one of these things that, I think if you look online too, you can see that, I probably just did someplace too, is one of these, what do they call it?
So you want us to send this to our Google?
Yeah, so once you save that, save to files. Save to files. And then it'll ask you where to save files. You have to tell it to find Google Drive.
What do I have to search?
Yeah.
Is there a-
Are you logged into your Google account up there?
Yeah.
It should find it right away.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to log into your Google account.
Where did I put my Gmail? Okay.
And I think as soon as you log in, it'll give you another choice of where to put your files. Did everybody find this option? To be able to upload this audio file that you recorded to Google Drive?
We have to download it.
Have to download.
Google Drive.
Oh, okay, on these things? Yeah, I might as well do that because we're using this for this purpose. Not only for this, but we're gonna have to use these devices for the video too.
Upload Google Drive.
Sorry?
I already have Google Drive essentially.
Okay, so what you wanna do then is use your Google Drive and set up another folder just for the password.
The ad light is still not on.
My version. My share to drive? Yeah. Because it says, the app.
It's called voice memos.
Voice memo.
Go back to the main screen, main page. Like the home page, and the home button. Is it on there? Look on there.
No, it's not on the.
No, just on this.
No, this is.
How about voice recorder?
Yes, there's quite a few different ones that you use. I just use this voice memo one because I thought it was mostly installed on the iPads. So,
And then what
I
do we
have like Podcast too.
Well, that's a podcast, but that's a different thing, right? That's an Apple iPod where you can listen to podcasts, but you can't really create them. Go to the store, Play Store. So it'll be on one of your things here, Play Store. Yeah, App Store. And when you're looking for voice memos or voice recording. Okay. You search, that'll search by name down there.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll search for I said voice memos.
No, I don't see it.
It's probably a few different ones that
But I don't see
do.
it. See, when I go here,
This is one.
which I'm looking at,
Actually, I went here and then I went to the stairway.
I did that.
Probably lost them in work.
That's what bringing the high school students.
And yeah, I don't see it, that's why, even when I download it. Stacy's iPad.
Yeah, but too bad.
Let me just go to the top one and pick the top one.
Stacy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it says Stacy's
Or something
iPad.
that has a
Your iPad is
five
fine.
stars.
Oh, yeah, no, you can airdrop. You can send documents. It's picking up my iPad and you can airdrop. Like, you can send that file right now just by being close to me. You go to airdrop and you don't have to email it or whatever. Yeah, with iPads, yeah.
So where would you find your drive on here then? Cause I got, files and I got more, but it doesn't show me.
Oh.
I downloaded Google Drive.
Can you download Google Drive?
Yeah.
What about if you click Google? See, I had to email it to myself because I'm not logged in with my Gmail. I had to email it to myself and then I had to do it on the computer. I know. I know.
Did you download it to your, did you download Google Drive?
Yeah, I did.
Because it worked for me. I have to download it as well. Because it's not called Google Drive, it's just called Drive.
Yeah. So that was like that.
Well, this stuff is on it, but not Drive. That's all this stuff.
Okay, did you install Google Drive though? You said you got it on your device?
Did you say to send it to our Gmail?
No, just save it to your Google Drive.
Yeah. Okay, I'll do it again, yeah, Google Drive.
Yeah, Google Drive is one of your choice. Have you got it installed? It's Google Drive installed on your device.
It'll be in the app store.
Okay, so go back and install Google Drive on your
What are
device.
we recording or?
Anything for the timing, just to get an audio file.
See, like that one, it says free, so I click
Record
on
something,
that,
put it on
and
your
this
Google
didn't
Drive.
take long.
So then you can do something.
Then I go like that, and then. Oh, yeah. Press it down. Come on.
Ah.
Yes. Yes. Eat it.
Yeah.
You can.
Download. When I pressed was done, I said, yes.
So you can find the App Store to download Google Drive.
Downloading right now.
Yeah, good. You might have to, when we start working more with these iPads, you might have to actually download,
Few more stuff.
well, Google Docs,
Okay.
Google Slides, all these things that on the regular computer, they're all part of Google Drive. On these things, you gotta do.
Do you have a
individually.
list that we can start downloading?
Yeah, so that's the things that are on Google Drive on your regular computer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are the ones we.
Yeah, docs, sheets, slides of the three for sure that we're gonna.
So how do you delete them in,
Yeah.
What's that?
like, after
Which one are you using?
Google Drive?
You wanna delete the Google Drive itself or?
No, that voice.
Well, the doc, we just, yeah, so open it and, should be one of the options there that says delete or move to trash or whatever. Don't worry about it, just make sure you got an audio file on your Google Drive.
Just have better files here, I wanna get rid of.
Oh, okay, yeah, we can figure out how to do that too, manage that is a big part of it.
Do we put it on our blog?
Well, you can, as long as you can remember what's what, but what I was gonna say is go into this, my drive and walk in the folder. All this audio.
Then I think he said upload to Drive. Upload to Drive? Oh, upload to Drive. So we're still on, yeah, here, Drive.
Just so you can organize them. Because as we started developing a lesson, podcast, we're going to be putting watch. We'll have to use another application to assemble.
So why would we use voice memo and not go straight to podcast if podcast, like what is, I guess?
Well, podcast now is the podcast is the place where you'll display this.
Oh, okay.
This will be the thing where you can give somebody else a link to it, and they can go to it and click on it. and listen to it.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, it's just a file that you have.
Memo?
Nobody else can listen.
Oh, okay.
I already have my form.
Oh, okay.
But I do have.
My golden tones. Is anybody getting a Google file?
We just save it on Drive and.
Yeah, save it on Drive. What you might want to do when you go onto Drive is create a new folder. So, let me see, I'll demonstrate it on this one here. So when you're in Drive, you'll see this new button. And just about anytime you're on Drive, you'll see that as one of the possibilities. You want to put a new folder. And you're going to call this new folder audio clips, for example, or audio or podcast files or whatever you want to call it, but just something so that you recognize it. And so you can keep it separate from the other things that you're doing too. So.
Just drop it in there.
And then just drag and drop it into there, yeah. Yeah, so what we're doing right now is just getting used to creating an audio file, saving that audio file, being able to identify it, find it again, rework with it, because we're going to go and use some other applications that need an audio file of some kind. And again, as I was telling you, when I usually teach this class, I'm working with people that have full-scale computers with full-scale operating systems that these little iPads really don't support yet. So we're kind of figuring our way through like you do normally anyway. So has everybody been able to create an audio file, record an audio recording, save it to your Google Drive? Is it working? Is that working?
It's downloading.
Lily, is it working for you?
Yeah.
You're able to do it? And Marcel, you've got, no. What's up? Good. So, that's your Apple.
You got it now?
Oh,
Record
I
something,
see.
that's what I say,
Okay.
and then go ahead and.
Okay. Just can you cancel it?
Yes.
I'm gonna get you.
Put you on there and then get the voice.
Oh, yeah, now, go download Google Drive. That's the other thing you need to do, because you have to save this in
You're
the.
sitting out to the store now. Now you do probably.
What do I-
Yeah, the application store. So click on that. And then you have to go search for Search voice memo.
They're gonna have it.
Yeah, try that. Let's see what it comes up with.
My screen is.
Sure, so probably a whole bunch of them. I always look for ones that have the most stars on them. So, yeah, try this one. Put them on. And just say get. So yes, so you need your Apple ID. What's your Apple ID? Oh. Can you make another one? No, here's another one. Or you can say forgot it. As long as you can handle the email that you put on here. So what email did you use to register this paddle?
Well, you just slow down, did you download yours? Still.
Stop, please.
Okay, so what,
Is yours downloaded?
what,
Well, they're
email did you
downloading,
use
but-
to register that?
Usually it's quick
Well,
here.
try your Gmail, let's see if that works actually. It actually says you're creating that. So that's fine. Well, what's your Gmail? Use that for your Apple ID. Might work, I don't know. They're weird about this stuff too, as you can see. So. So everybody getting there? Recording an audio file, stored it in your G Drive, Google Drive, can find it in your Google Drive. So when you go to your Google Drive, I mean, even if these computers don't have audio capacity, you should be able to still go find it in your Google Drive. And because we're going to want to manipulate that digital file from within the Google Drive. So if I go into my Google Drive now, I've got audio clips. I should be seeing things that I've recorded here. So let's see, Pent demo. Is that an audio file? That's not even an audio file. That's a map. Voice memo test. So just open this file in your Google Drive. So when you're in your Google Drive, just click on it, and you should see something that looks like this. So this is what the audio file looks like in your Google Drive. And again, if you had speakers on this or headphones, I think maybe even headphones might work on these computers. I don't think the microphone works, but the headphones, you might be able to listen to this file. But this is sort of what it looks like in Google Drive. So you have the option here too, is open with different types of things, and you can associate different types of applications with the audio files in Google Drive. And right now I use Music Player for Google Drive. That's a common one. And we can connect more applications, and we'll try connecting more applications as we go along. But for the time being, you can play this right within Google Drive. The only thing is that nobody else could play it unless they had access to your Google Drive, right? So the file's there, it's created, it's in Google Drive, but nobody can listen to it unless you've got some way to give people access to a player. So that's what we'll do with other applications. So for example, Music Player for Google Drive, if you click on that and say, let's listen to it with this, it gives you this little player, music player, which is good. You can do a few things with this. You can add this to different files. People can look at this and play them. And this is one of the features I said of a podcast, was that you can play it, you can rewind it, you can stop it, you can control the volume, you can pause it as long as you want, you can rewind it as much as you want. That's what makes it a podcast. That's what gives you control. If you can go on to somebody else's page and click a link, to get access to that and use that level of control, that's what's considered a podcast. So if you're talking about the history of podcasting, it's funny because it's actually, I don't know, what's the correct term for it? Digital audio casting? I don't know what's a good word. In the early days when they first started developing this capacity, when anybody have an iPod? Anybody have an iPod? This was sort of one of the first little players right after they came out with portable CD players with Walkmans, right? Right after Walkmans, they came with iPods. Discmans was even before that, right? So right after Discmans, they came with iPods. So these are little marvelous little things that could store digital music on them, right? So, and then they started creating audio specifically for those little things that you could use this little device to go to an Apple webpage, the iTunes store, and download music onto this download broadcasts or audio files on a iPod. So they started calling these things podcasts. That's probably 15 years ago or something like that too, I guess. Something like that anyways. But ever since, it's been that type of functionality has been known as a podcast. For some reason, that term stuck. Who knows? But it really doesn't have anything to do with the iPods anymore. I still got a couple of them, but never use them. Anyway, so podcasting now has developed into quite a huge industry. If you look at just about any radio station, like CBC Radio, you can listen to CBC on the radio, right? Click on your radio in your car radio. But you can also go on CBC's webpage and listen to just about any radio program there on a podcast. So the thing about that is that you now have control, and people expect to have that type of control. They want to be able to listen to it when they want to listen to it. I don't necessarily like to listen to, my favorite CBC shows at the time that they're broadcast, but I do like to listen to them. So if I've got a podcast, I can go and click on them. And they're using podcasts for just about everything now. Podcasts have really, in the last couple of years, have really taken off. So there's all sorts of things. Entertainment, education, of course, is a huge podcasting sector. The applications and tools that are available to create podcasts now they're all over the place. There's all sorts of things. So anyway, I put a little bit of information on here about podcasting. You can read through this a little bit too, and some of this won't make sense because it's still referring to the applications that we use on a larger computer. And I hope to demonstrate those though for you at least, and give you a chance to work through them. Although it's not very effective when you can't listen to them. So, but for the time being, let's try one little thing. I'll show you another thing that I really like, and this is sort of podcasting. So if you go to a site called Vocaroo, and you won't be able to do it on your iPads, but you'll just be able to do it on your main computers. So VOCAROO, Vocaroo.com. This is a fabulous little application, silly looking thing, goofy, but it works really well. You have to have Adobe Flash Player, which is not supported on your devices. So just sort of watch with me while I do this here on this. Maybe I'll let you go to it. On Chrome, go to Vocaroo on Chrome. Open your Chrome browser and search for Vocaroo, and it should bring you to this page. Anybody find it? So if you've got the equipment to do it, or you've got the operating system to do it, what you can do now is just click to record, and I'll do it right now. Click to record. It's connecting. It always asks you permission to use your equipment. I'm going to say allow, and now it's recording my voice. So I just have to keep talking, and it automatically records a file. As soon as I'm done, I click to stop. So I can listen to it. I'm going to say allow, and now it's recording my voice. So I just have to keep talking, and it automatically records the file as soon as I'm done. There's my little speaker thing. Oh.
So it's just another app that allows us to record.
Well, if you've got a sound card into your computer,
Okay.
which we don't have on these iPads for Vocaroo, and it actually also is using what's called Flash Player. So what we will be able to do though is use this for other purposes. So you're able to see it, Vocaroo, and if you're using these bigger the company computers here for this, you'll be able to see what I'm doing here. You won't be able to record anything, of course, because there's no microphone on these things, but you'll be able to see some of the other functions of this, and you'll see why this might be useful still, even though we don't have the same features. So I was able to record this. Let me see, allow, blah, blah, blah. It's recording my voice. So I just have to keep talking and records a file. As soon as I'm done, I'm going to stop. I'm going to retry and record this, and I'm going to see if I can increase the volume a little because it was a little quiet. Okay, now I'm adding another or repeating my audio here. I'm just recording a plain audio file just for demonstration purposes. I'll click to stop. Listen to it. Okay, now I'm adding another or repeating my audio here. Okay, so recording a plain audio file just for demonstration purposes. Not very good, but we'll say that's good enough for the time being, just for demonstration purposes. So in this thing, you'll see, if you're following along, you can see where it says click here to save. Some of this text is pretty small on this application, but if you're following along on the screen, you'll see now that I've saved it, it is going to publish this and give me some options for sharing it. So it's going to give me a link. So if I send you this link, in fact, I will send you this link. Yeah, you might be able to do this right away. If anybody has got their Skype going. Who's got their Skype going? Will it work? I don't know. Can you hear it? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? So, simple little thing. If I wanted to embed it, it's going to give me this stuff. What is this stuff again? HTML code, right? So if I want to embed this little player on my website, I'll just copy that code and I'll go over here. I'll find a spot for it. I'll make another page here just for fun. I'll make a new post even for the time being. Find a place where I can put it in HTML. Pop that code that I copied in there. Call this Vocaroo demo. And publish this page. Now, if you go to my website now, you should be able to see this embedded player. So it gives me a little player. So I've made a podcast. Basically what I've done is made a podcast. I recorded an audio file and then put it in a place where you can go to this thing and click it with one click and listen to it. Pause it, rewind it, replay it. So that's basically what a podcast is. Yeah, so crappy little recording, but no real finesse to it whatsoever. But that's the basic idea of a podcast. So now, if I wanted to record something, I'd record something, I'd put it on a web page, I'd give you the link to it. You can go listen to it on the link and control it. Here's some of the other options that are available with this Vocaroo and why it's such a marvelous little thing. You can do things like save it as different types of files. So I don't know if you can see this fine text, but you can save it as a MP3 file, an OGG file, which is an open source file that's used with some applications, FLAC, which is a higher definition of higher fidelity recording application that takes a little bit more data, and then a WAV file. So that's on your Apples or your on your other types of computers. Those are the types of files that their player applications work with. So you can change that to all sorts of things. I can share this link, as I said. I can send it as an email. I can do this. What's this? What is that? QR code. What does that mean? QR code. Just scan it. What happens if you scan that? Anybody got a QR code reader on them? You should. We got time. Yes. QR code reader on your device. Go to the store. In the store, use, what do I use? I use Neo Reader. It's called Neo Reader. Let's see if I can put it someplace. This one. Neo Reader, it's called. So go to your, whatever your store you're using, whether you're using the App Store or the Play Store, Google Play Store, and go find Neo Reader. And when you get Neo Reader, it's got a little camera on it. Point it at this. Neo Reader.
Have we installed it?
Yeah, install it. And when you've installed it, it's going to install a little camera in it, but then you can point at that thing. And you get the scanner to scan the scanner that you've downloaded. Basically, that's what Neo Reader is a scanner, barcode scanner. You can actually use it on barcodes, regular barcodes too, right? If you go shopping, go to Superstore, use it to scan the codes. It'll give you the prices. It'll give you the discounts. It'll give you the sales.
So you'll have to go looking for those things there. That they have those, just like that, this thing here, you know, what?
What's that?
Like that thing they were scanning.
This thing,
Prices.
Or
Is
is there one there?
stores, no, just an example, something.
Oh, yeah. So like anything like this, right?
Okay, let's see.
So the barcode, you can use it to scan the barcode on a book. But these QR codes, they're called quick response codes. They're three-dimensional codes, right? So you can embed a whole bunch more information in a QR code than you could just in a regular barcode. Most of the time, the regular barcode is just a series of numbers, right? That all has meaning, but it's usually just a series of numbers. This is actually can embed more data and information. So in this case, I used Vocaroo to embed that little message that I put in there. Right? Anybody working for everybody yet?
So you want us to scan that?
Yeah, scan that. And you should be able to scan it from just about anywhere. I don't know how far.
Do you take a picture or?
No, just when you open the Neo Reader, just point it and put that thing in the square of Neo Reader. Okay. And you actually usually do it from a fair distance.
Oh, okay. So it actually just scans it and waits for
It scans it and it. Well, it also. It should open something for you. When you take a picture,
Yeah.
push it to a web page. It should have opened up this little audio recording, because that's what that's connected to, that QR code.
The one you downloaded there?
Yeah.
Because we didn't do that one there.
Is that-
Yeah, I've got audio.
Yeah, so as soon as you, Vocaroo, yeah, so as soon as you click this, it should start playing that little audio message.
So like this, I didn't put it on the.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, there you go. Oh, girl. Just
Yep, so,
okay.
Okay, it just takes a minute. She just did it. Just sit it down again. Okay, there it is.
Oh, okay.
So,
Oh, so when you go shopping, you have to.
yeah, when you're doing the shopping. You see this now in lots of places, right? You've seen these little things all over? What are they? Well, if you, Snapchat, lots of different social media things use this as, you know, sort of a way to share information, share data. Next year I'm gonna turn 65 and I'm gonna get one of these tattooed on me. And it's gonna be my living will. It's gonna be my do not resuscitate orders. So that when I get in there and somebody's trying to do CPR on me, scan me and say, no, don't do it. Leave me alone. Let me go.
There's the one that can scan a recording, right? Like a voice recording?
Well, that's what this is here.
But you could do that on your, you could tattoo it on yourself.
Oh, yeah.
You could hear it, like, yeah.
Oh, sure. So if I got this tattooed on me, that's what you get is this message, my goofy little message, but I'd probably want to say something a little more profound before I got it tattooed on me, but. Anyway, so this is called quick response code or QR code. What's that, the Neo Reader? Yeah, just take a minute. And there's lots of different ones that do the same thing. Like I like Neo Reader, but there's lots and lots of them that do this sort of thing.
There's a WCLZ one where you can check your water bill.
Yeah, same idea.
Yeah, you check your water bill if you're scratching your ticket.
Oh,
You see this in, say, real estate, right? So you're driving by and you see a real estate sign and it's got a QR code on there. Tells you the price of the house, real estate agent, contact details, all this stuff that's would take up too much room on a sign, but can be easily put into a code like that. So we'll look at these QR codes a little bit more in different contexts, but it's just interesting that Vocaroo, it's got that built into it. That's part of Vocaroo, is this capacity to do this, generate a QR code that links right to this audio. So I could send you the link in Skype. I could email you the link. I could embed it in my audio. I use this often if I'm correcting papers. If I'm reading people's papers and I don't necessarily want to always just put text comments on there, I'll record a little recording like this and I'll embed it in their paper as a comment in their paper. So then they actually get a voice comment from me. We can have a voice conversation. So the other thing about this is it's an example of what's called an ephemeral application or ephemeral data. What does that mean, ephemeral? Anybody come across that term before? Doesn't last. It's like the spring. It's like the bloom of youth. It doesn't last. It's ephemeral. So, yeah. So this thing doesn't last. As soon as you quit this or don't keep track of this anymore, it's gone. It'll only be good as long as you still have that link. It's not saved anywhere that you can go find in a file or anywhere unless you've saved it someplace purposefully. It's gone. So as soon as you get rid of this link, it's no longer there. So let's try one thing. On your computers, on your desktop computers, go to Vocaroo now, and you see one of the things that you do, it says or upload. So you won't be able to record anything because you don't have the recording application, but you do have the capacity to upload something. So when it says or upload, it's going to say this, go click to upload. What are you going to upload? that file you just recorded on your Google Drive. Go find that file in your Google Drive. Where's your Google Drive?
Oh, I'm sorry.
My Google Drive. Google Docs, Google Drive. Any audio file, really. If you've got any kind of audio file stored on your computer, just find it and upload it. Finally load it. Maybe I don't even have Google Drive downloaded on this one. I'll have to find another audio file.
We have to add a page, are they getting post first?
For which now?
Are you telling us to add it onto our blog?
Well, so once you've uploaded a file into Vocaroo, an audio file, yeah, so then you can do all the same things that I just did with it for your own file that you've uploaded. Yeah, so try that, embed it on your blog. And what I'll also get you to do on this, of course, is along the top here, is create a new page. That's going to be your podcast page where you're going to put your example of the podcast that you're going to create. So we might as well start that right now. Create a page, call it podcast. If you want to embed this, what you're creating with Vocaroo right now, put it on there just to have something there. You'll be able to change this page as you go along to do your actual thing. And then on your blog, put along the top here, that top toolbar.
The Google is a new page, not a post.
Yeah, put it on a page. I mean, you could put it on your post too if you want, but put it on a page and call the page podcast, because this is where I'm going to go look for the example that you've created for the lesson plan. So you're going to create a podcasting lesson, and then you're going to put an example of the podcast on your blog. So that's what I'm saying. I'm looking for along the top of your blog as a page. So if I click on this now, oh, I put the wrong thing in there.
What do you call that top?
The toolbar, the cross column, pages application basically. So
What do you add there, pages?
so create a new page, and then put the data that you got, the embed code that you got from that Vocaroo, this thing here, this stuff here. Put it on another page on your blog. So your blog should look like this, right? Well, and I'm sort of trying to get an example here. So along the top of this cross column, I'm starting to have a bunch of pages, course outline, ICT continuum, the Manitoba curriculum, lesson plans, which has got a link to my MindMeister map. I got an example of my map. I've embedded my map on here.
So I just moved mine to the sidebar because the top bar doesn't allow so many on top. It's like,
Well,
okay, but then the side or-
yeah, it's just make sure I can find it. That's the only thing. Yeah, just tweak them up. But this is the kind of the organization that I'm looking for this class. And if you want to do it for anything else, that's fine. But when I go to look to evaluate your lessons, this is where I'm going to look for it. So
I'm gonna get mine to look like that.
this one,
Yeah.
uh,
Are you,
I wanna do that one.
what part of that is it?
well, like,
The theme that you're using.
Oh, the theme. I think I'm just using the basic theme. What theme am I using? I can't remember. As I said, I like to use the most basic, plainest theme because the plainer the theme, the easier it is on bandwidth, right? So if I'm broadcasting to somebody else, what is this base theme? Live on blog. I don't know if it does even tell. I can't even tell what theme that is.
You? Did you get it?
I couldn't find my driver's here, but I wanted to send it all.
like mine has all the.
Could be simple.
Simple.
Sorry?
It's on simple, the second.
Second one in on simple. Simple. Oh, yeah. Second one in on simple. Just real plain text. You see, the other thing I like about Blogger, of course, is that it actually has a mobile version of this. So.
Like, if I view blog, I like the way it looks, but then.
That'll be it for today. I'll stick around. Anybody needs help or anything with anything, but and I'll post this this video too now. If I can find it. Where'd it go?
You record your.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Did you record it?
This one.
Then it shows everything.
This Zoom